Hi all, it's Jan from the Jam Files. I hope you will subscribe to my YouTube channel. That would mean a lot to me. So I want to talk about two very different things, but always related to one another. So one of the things I want to talk about is education, because we are in the time of year. I mean, I guess it's different from every school district, but where I live, it is a time of year to elect a school board. And too many people are not paying attention to this. In certain areas, they are, but in other areas, absolutely not. They don't get out. In my particular town, which has almost an even Democrat and Republican, but the Republicans have been in charge for like 20 years here in terms of the town itself. So this is a very loud red town. The Democrats tend to stay silent, which is really fucking irritating. And is the reason why I get called out all the time and am notorious because I don't stay silent. And I fought the board more than once. But now, because of COVID and what happened then, it's all MAGA board. And so these kinds of elections are important. We need civics classes. We need to make sure that people understand how our government works. Too many people don't. They have no fucking clue. And even when they know they're not sure, they don't go look it up. For instance, the 25th Amendment. Congress doesn't do that. They can call for it for sure. So can I. So can you. Does that mean that J.D. Vance is going to go to the cabinet and that he's going to ask them to declare Trump mentally unfit? Is that really what you think is going to happen? Because that's how that works. And so this lack of knowledge and also the lack of critical thinking comes with education. And the fact is that this administration is targeting education. They are robbing public schools of all kinds of funding. They would rather have private schools in place and leave the poor or the minority people or even the middle class in shitty schools because they don't care. You know, they really, truly do not care. And it's part of and parcel of everything they are doing. It's part and parcel of their fascism. It's their white nationalism. It is their white supremacy speaking, because typically the people that are going to be hurt, there are white people that will be hurt for sure, but too many will not be white. And that's the point. So, folks, pay attention to your school boards. If you can, run for school board. If you can't, support who's ever running, because it really is truly important. This is talking about ground level, get in there, guerrilla type of marketing, whatever that means, but get on the ground. You got to get on the ground. You got to fight back here. And this is something you can do in your own damn town or city. So, they're counting on keeping us stupid. And, unfortunately, there are a lot of stupid Americans. Or maybe I should just say uneducated. Maybe that's a better way of saying it. Uneducated through no fault of their own. And a lot of those people are white folks. So that's why we get a lot of these idiots voting for Trump, besides just their inherent racism. But so I want to make sure that you are attuned to what's going on locally and education, because, we desperately need to fix our schools. And whoever comes in next is going to have to rebuild the Department of Education, because literally they have torn it apart. It basically doesn't exist. So that's what I'm going to say about that. Now let's talk about the $1.5 trillion budget that Trump wants to fund the Iran war. $1.5 trillion. Yes, it will add to our debt. And yes, it will require cuts. And I'm going to go through this and you'll see the pattern here, right? What they are claiming they want to cut. Now, this budget doesn't go before the Congress until next week, April 22nd. So pay attention to what's going to happen. So here are some of the, I'm going to try to read them off without discussing each and every one of them, which is my normal way. First of all, what they're asking for is a 44% increase in the defense budget. It's more than what China or Russia spends on their defense. It would require the following cuts: ending a $4 billion program that helped low-income people afford their energy bills. And we know how awful those energy bills are now and how much worse they're going to get. So there's $4 billion they want to cut out of those programs. Cutting tens of millions of renewable energy programs. $400 million from homelessness programs. $529 million from people who have HIV. $4.2 billion that was allocated for electric chargers so that electric cars could be more feasible. $500 million cut from funding public transit. $659 million funding for programs in rural areas, and those are agriculture programs. In other words, fuck the farmers again. $449 million in economic development administration to be cut. If you don't know, there are economic development zones around the country that are funded so that people can come into blighted areas or areas that need economic development and invest and do things and get breaks because they're in this particular kind of economic development zone. $386 million of funding cleaning up. So in other words, for the military. So the military has sites that need to be cleaned, environmentally cleaned. And that's $386 million they're going to cut from that. And finally, $1.4 billion cut from IRS. And unfortunately, a lot of Americans are going, oh, the IRS, the IRS. You know what? The IRS is the way we collect, as people know, the way we collect taxes. The problem is not the IRS. And as you can see, all of these programs that are targeting are Americans. There's nothing about any of this that is putting America first. It is the exact opposite. It is putting billionaires first, because you can see there's not a damn thing here that they are going to end up having to pay for. Because people like Jeff Bezos don't pay fucking taxes. But hey, to the maggots, they don't care. They're so fucking stupid that they don't understand how most of this works and that they're hurting themselves. Some are finally understanding that. Some who have had relatives deported. Some who are farmers who have bankrupted their farms. Businesses that have had to close because of the tariffs. None of this is America first. This is fuck you from Trump, because he honestly, folks, he doesn't care. First of all, he's nuts. Okay? Impaired, whatever you want to call him. He is, either demented, whatever the reason, he's nuts. And nobody on the Republican side is willing to deal with it. They'd rather harm Americans on every fucking level than push back against Trump. And you can see they're going to tout their American flags. And yes, we want us to be the strongest military. You know what we are? We just don't have the strongest brains running the fucking military. We've got a drunk running the military. And so this is what's happening next week. Pay attention. And just one last thing on the Pope. I'm not one for religion. I believe everybody should believe what they want as long as they don't harm anybody else. That's my belief. And I think this Pope has a lot of good things to say, especially because he seems to care about humanity and the poor. And he actually thinks that war is not a good thing. And yet somehow now, most of these Protestant Christians are going, except for J.D. Vance, who just celebrated becoming a Catholic. I think he wrote a book on it. And are calling out the Pope. It's beyond stupid. But let him continue to do it. Let him harm the Catholics voter who voted for Trump in the majority. So lots of people are going to be finding out, folks. Stay tuned. Take care.